The wind howled across the white plains of Antarctica. Captain James Walker pulled his thermal mask tighter against his face. The cold was brutal, even with his advanced polar gear. He checked the scanner in his hand one more time. The readings made no sense. "Dr. Morgan, are you seeing this?" he called through his radio. Anna Morgan's voice crackled back. "Yes, Captain. Something large is buried about 50 meters below us. It's not ice or rock." The geological survey was supposed to be routine. The team had come to study ice patterns and climate data. No one expected to find anything unusual, especially not something that made their equipment go crazy. "Should we call it in?" asked Tom, the young technician who was helping set up their drilling equipment. Captain Walker shook his head. "Let's find out what we're dealing with first. Anna, can we get a sample?" The small team worked quickly, their drill, designed to take ice core samples, whirred to life. As it dug deeper, the readings got stronger. The wind picked up, blowing snow around them in a blinding white cloud. At 45 meters down, the drill hit something solid. Not ice, not rock, something else. "Cut the drill," Dr. Morgan shouted. Her eyes were wide behind her protective goggles. "We've got contact." The team gathered around as they pulled up the drill. At its tip was a small piece of metal unlike anything they had seen before. It was dark gray with faint blue lines running through it. It was room temperature despite being buried in ice for who knows how long. "This isn't possible," Anna whispered, holding the fragment in her gloved hand. "This metal should be freezing cold." Captain Walker took a picture and sent it to their base camp. Within minutes, his satellite phone rang. "Don't touch anything else," ordered the voice on the other. "And a team is on its way. This is now a classified operation." 3 days later, Captain Walker stood in a hastily built research dome. The small metal fragment had been just the beginning. A massive excavation revealed a structure buried deep in the ice. It wasn't a ship or a building, it was something else. "It's a data storage device," explained Dr. Morgan as she worked with the international team of scientists that had arrived within hours of their discovery. "From what we can tell, it's at least 5,000 years old, but the technology is far beyond anything we have today." "Alien?" Walker asked the question everyone was thinking. "Without a doubt," answered Dr. Morgan. "And it was left here deliberately for us to find." The room went quiet. The implications were enormous. Humanity was not alone in the universe, and someone had left them a message. General Adams, who had flown in from Washington, cleared his throat. "What does it say?" Dr. Morgan clicked a button on her tablet. A 3D projection appeared in the center of the room. Blue light formed into shapes that slowly came together to form what looked like a massive ship. It was angular and imposing, with what clearly looked like weapons mounted on its hull. "It's a blueprint," she said. "The most advanced spacecraft design ever conceived. But that's not all." She swiped her finger across the tablet, and the image changed to show strange symbols. "We're still translating, but from what we can tell, it's a warning. There's something coming. Something dangerous. And this ship is our only hope of survival." 1 month later, the United Nations Security Council held an emergency closed-door session. Representatives from every major nation sat around a large table, their faces grim. "The translation is complete," announced the Secretary General. "The message warns of an advanced alien civilization called the Dominion. They conquer worlds and strip them of resources. According to the warning, they visit systems every few thousand years. Their next visit to our solar system is due soon." "How soon?" asked the American representative. 3 years, maybe less." The Chinese delegate leaned forward. "And this blueprint? Can we build it?" Dr. Morgan, now advising the Security Council, nodded slowly. "With a global effort, yes. The technology is beyond us, but the instructions are very detailed. It's as if whoever left this wanted to make sure we could follow them, even with our limited understanding." "Why would they help us?" asked the Russian delegate, suspicion clear in his voice. "The message mentions that the creators were once victims of the Dominion themselves. They escaped and have been working to help other civilizations defend themselves. They couldn't intervene directly without drawing attention to Earth. The room fell silent as everyone processed this information. Finally, the Secretary General spoke. We need to form a unified Earth Defense Council. This project must transcend all national interests. If we fail, there might not be nations left to defend. 6 months passed. In a secure facility beneath the mountains of Switzerland, the Earth Defense Council met again. The room was filled with screens showing construction progress. The moon facility is nearly complete, reported the project director. It's the only place we can build something this size without detection from Earth. On the main screen, a massive structure was taking shape in a crater on the far side of the moon. It would eventually become Earth's first true warship. What about power? Asked one of the council members. Dr. Morgan stepped forward. We're using the alien technology to develop a new form of fusion. Tests are promising. If successful, the ship will have enough power to operate its main weapon system. Which is? Prompted General Adams. A directed energy weapon capable of destroying a star, Dr. Morgan said quietly. Hence the name Star Destroyer. It's designed as a last resort against the Dominion's main fleet. The council members exchanged nervous glances. The power they were creating was beyond anything humanity had wielded before. We've kept this secret long enough, said the Indian representative. People deserve to know what's coming. Not yet, countered General Adams. Mass panic would only slow our progress. We need more time. As they argued, an alarm sounded. One of the technicians rushed into the room. Sir, the fusion test on the moon just went active. It's creating a gravitational anomaly that's affecting Earth's tides. People are noticing. It's all over the news. On a side screen, news reports showed unusual wave patterns hitting coastlines around the world. Earthquakes were being reported in places that never had them before. The Earth was literally shaking. The Secretary General stood up. It seems the decision has been made for us. Prepare a worldwide address. It's time humanity learned the truth about what lies beyond our world and what we must do to survive. Captain Walker, who had been listening quietly, looked at the blueprint of the massive ship on the screen. In just 2 years, it would need to be ready to face an enemy humanity had never seen. An enemy that had conquered countless worlds before them. But Earth had something those other worlds didn't have: advance warning and the means to fight back. The question was whether it would be enough. 3 massive screens displayed the face of the Secretary General as she addressed the world. Her expression was serious, but calm. Citizens of Earth, today I must share with you a truth that will change our understanding of our place in the universe. 6 months ago, we discovered an alien artifact in Antarctica containing advanced technology and a warning. An aggressive species known as the Dominion is approaching our solar system. They have destroyed countless civilizations before us. She paused, letting the information sink in. But we were given a gift. Blueprints for a defensive weapon unlike anything humanity has ever built. For the past 6 months, the nations of Earth have been working together on the moon to construct this vessel. The recent gravitational disturbances you have experienced were the result of testing its power systems. The screen switched to show the massive construction site on the dark side of the moon. A huge ship was taking shape in a crater, surrounded by work lights and construction equipment. This is Project Earth Shield, our best hope for survival. Tom Reed wiped sweat from his forehead as he studied the holographic display. The ship's power core glowed blue in the simulation, pulsing with energy. The fusion containment is still unstable, he said to Maria Davis, who was typing rapidly at a console nearby. If we can't control it, we'll have another gravity wave incident. The last one nearly caused tsunamis on Earth. Maria nodded without looking up. I've been studying the alien designs. I think we're approaching it wrong. They don't just use magnetic containment. There's something else, something about the geometry of the chamber itself. They worked in the largest laboratory built into the lunar facility. Through the reinforced windows, they could see the massive ship under construction. Even half finished, it was incredible, over 2 kilometers long with a sharp angular design that reminded Tom of an arrowhead. What if we reshape the chamber like this? Maria suggested, manipulating the hologram. The virtual power core changed shape, becoming more complex with angles and curves that seemed to make no sense. Tom frowned. That breaks every rule of engineering I know. Maybe our rules are wrong, Maria said simply. Against his better judgment, Tom agreed to try her design. They spent 3 days reconfiguring the test chamber, working around the clock as the countdown to the Dominion's arrival continued to tick down. When they activated the new core design, something remarkable happened. The fusion reaction that had been so unstable before suddenly calmed. Energy readings stabilized and then climbed higher than they had ever achieved. "It's working," Maria exclaimed, her eyes wide with excitement. "We've done it, Tom." Tom could hardly believe the readings. "This will give us enough power for all systems, including the main weapon." Director Phillips, who oversaw the entire construction project, entered the lab with a rare smile. "Well done, both of you. This is the breakthrough we needed. Now we can accelerate construction." The next 6 months saw the greatest engineering effort in human history. Over 10,000 workers lived on the moon now, working in shifts to complete the massive vessel. The ship had been officially named Thunderbolt, though most workers simply called it Thunder. Captain Walker had been assigned as the liaison between the military and the engineering teams. He stood with Dr. Morgan on an observation platform, watching as massive plates of the special alien alloy were attached to form the ship's outer hull. "Will it be ready in time?" he asked. Dr. Morgan checked her tablet. "At the current pace, we'll be at 85% completion when the Dominion is expected to reach Pluto. It's not ideal, but the essential systems will be operational." Walker nodded. "And the crew?" "Training is ongoing. We're using simulators based on the alien data. Admiral Hayes has been selected to command." Walker had met Hayes once, a tough, experienced naval officer who had been quickly promoted to admiral specifically to lead this mission. The crew would be the best of the best from every nation on Earth. "Look," Dr. Morgan said suddenly, pointing to the ship. The first of the main weapon arrays was being installed. Even unfinished, it looked fearsome. According to the blueprints, when fully powered, it could create a beam of energy so powerful it could destabilize a star's core, causing it to collapse. The ultimate deterrent. "Let's hope we never have to use it," Walker said quietly. 2 years after the discovery in Antarctica, Thunderbolt was nearly complete. Its silver-gray hull gleamed in the harsh lunar sunlight. Test flights of smaller components had been successful, but the main engines had not yet been fired. In the control center, Tom and Maria prepared for the first full power test. "All systems are green," Maria reported. "Fusion core is stable at 60% capacity." Director Phillips gave the order, "Proceed with engine test, low power only." Tom activated the sequence. On the main viewer, they could see the massive engine ports at the rear of Thunderbolt beginning to glow blue. Energy readings climbed steadily. 40% thrust capacity. 45%. 50%, Maria called out. Suddenly, alarms began to sound. The readings jumped unexpectedly. "What's happening?" demanded Phillips. Tom's fingers flew over the controls. "The alien algorithms are overriding our limiters. The system is increasing power automatically." "Shut it down," Phillips shouted. "I can't," Tom replied, genuine fear in his voice. "It's locked us out." On the screen, the engines flared brilliantly. The entire ship shuddered and then impossibly began to rise from its construction cradle. Massive clamps and support structures broke away. "It's not supposed to move yet," Maria cried. "The navigation systems aren't even installed." But Thunderbolt was moving, rising slowly above the lunar surface. The control room fell silent as they watched the impossible happening before their eyes. Then, just as suddenly as it had started, the engines cut off. Thunderbolt settled back into its cradle with surprising gentleness. The computers came back online, and a message appeared on the main screen in both alien symbols, and translated English, diagnostic, complete. Primary systems. Functional, ready for crew integration. Tom and Maria exchanged confused looks. "Did it just test itself?" Tom asked. Before anyone could answer, another alarm sounded. This one was different, an incoming communication from Earth. The main screen changed to show General Adams, his face grim. "We've detected objects entering the solar system at high speed," he announced without preamble. "They've just passed Neptune. Based on their trajectory and speed, they'll reach Mars in 3 days." Phillips paled. "The Dominion. They're early." "Get Thunderbolt ready," ordered General Adams. "Ready or not, it's time to fight." As the control room burst into frantic activity, Dr. Morgan stood quietly by the window, looking at the massive ship. It seemed to her that Thunderbolt wasn't just a weapon they had built. It was almost as if it had awakened, and just in time. Humanity's first, and perhaps only battle for survival, was about to begin. Admiral Robert Hayes stood on the bridge of Thunderbolt, his face illuminated by the blue glow of the command console. Around him, crew members worked at their stations with focused intensity. Though the ship was only 80% complete, it had been pressed into service ahead of schedule. "Status report," Hayes ordered, his voice calm despite the gravity of the situation. "6 Dominion vessels have established position around Pluto," reported the sensor officer, a young woman named Lisa. "They appear to be setting up some kind of base." Hayes studied the tactical display. The alien ships were smaller than Thunderbolt but moved with a precision that suggested advanced technology. "What about Mars Colony?" he asked. Captain Walker, who had been assigned as Hayes's second-in-command, checked his console. "All non-essential personnel have been evacuated. The remaining 200 colonists are in the underground shelters." Hayes nodded. Mars Colony had been humanity's first permanent settlement off Earth, a symbol of their expansion into the solar system. Now it might become the first battleground in an interspecies war. "Time to launch?" Hayes asked. "Final system checks complete in 30 minutes, Admiral," answered Tom Reed, who had been assigned as chief engineer. He looked exhausted but determined. "We're loading the last of the crew and supplies now." Hayes turned to Dr. Morgan, who stood nearby reviewing data on a tablet. "Doctor, what can you tell me about these ships?" Anna Morgan looked up. "Based on the warning we received, these are scout vessels. Their job is to prepare for the arrival of the main fleet. The good news is they're not expecting resistance. The civilizations they've encountered before didn't have time to prepare." "Then we have surprise on our side," Hayes said. "Let's use it." 28 minutes later, alarms blared throughout the lunar base. "Emergency launch," came the announcement over the speakers. "All personnel clear the docking area." Inside Thunderbolt's engine room, Maria Davis worked frantically to stabilize the power systems. "We're pushing the fusion core beyond tested limits," she warned Tom over the communication link. "I can't guarantee it will remain stable under combat conditions." "Do your best," Tom replied from the engineering deck. "We don't have a choice." On the bridge, Hayes received the report that changed everything. "Admiral, 3 Dominion vessels have broken formation and are heading toward Mars at high speed." Hayes didn't hesitate. "Launch now. All stations, prepare for combat." The massive clamps holding Thunderbolt in place released with thunderous clangs that echoed through the hull. The engines came to life, glowing with blue-white energy. The ship rose smoothly from the lunar surface and accelerated toward Mars with a speed that defied its enormous size. "Estimated arrival at Mars, 43 minutes, reported the navigation officer. Hayes nodded. "Faster than any Earth vessel has ever traveled, but I hope it's fast enough." Mars grew larger on the main view screen. Its red surface was marred by the white domes of the human colony. 3 Dominion ships hovered above the largest settlement. "They're deploying something," Lisa reported, studying her sensors. "Energy readings suggest weapons charging." "Bring us out of stealth mode," Hayes ordered. "Full power to shields and weapons." Thunderbolt dropped its energy cloaking as it entered Mars orbit. On the Dominion ships, lights suddenly flared as they detected the massive human vessel appearing seemingly from nowhere. "They're turning to engage," Walker reported. Hayes stood. "Open a channel." After a moment, the view screen changed to show a figure that sent chills through everyone on the bridge. The alien was humanoid, but with gray skin that seemed almost metallic. Its eyes were large and completely black, with no visible pupils. "Attention, Dominion vessels," Hayes said firmly. "This is Admiral Robert Hayes of the Earth Defense Ship Thunderbolt. You are trespassing in Earth-controlled space. Withdraw immediately." The alien's head tilted slightly. When it spoke, its voice was translated by the ship's computers into a flat, emotionless tone. "Unexpected. This system was cataloged as pre-spaceflight civilization. Your level of technology is inconsistent." "We had help," Hayes replied simply. "I won't repeat my warning. Leave our system now." The alien's expression didn't change. "Negative. This system has been claimed for resource extraction. Your resistance is noted but irrelevant." The transmission cut off abruptly. "They're powering weapons," Lisa shouted. "Evasive maneuvers," Hayes ordered. "Return fire, defensive pattern alpha." Thunderbolt moved with surprising agility for its size, banking away as green energy beams lanced out from the lead Dominion ship. The few hits that connected were absorbed by the ship's shields. "Shields holding at 92%, reported Walker. Hayes nodded. "Target the leftmost vessel. Fire main batteries." Thunderbolt's conventional weapons, massive railguns and energy cannons, opened fire. The barrage struck the Dominion ship, causing visible damage to its hull. "Direct hit," Walker exclaimed. "Their shields are down." But the Dominion ships were quick to respond. They spread out, coordinating their attack with a precision that spoke of vast combat experience. Energy beams crisscrossed space, many finding their mark on Thunderbolt's hull. "Shields at 67%, Walker updated. "They're targeting our weapons arrays." In the engine room, Maria worked frantically as systems overloaded around her. "The power core is becoming unstable," she called to Tom. "We need to reduce weapon output." Tom relayed this to the bridge, but Hayes shook his head. "We can't back down now. Divert emergency power to shields and weapons." The battle intensified. Thunderbolt managed to cripple a second Dominion ship, but the third proved more elusive. It darted around the human vessel, striking at vulnerable points. "Hull breach in Section 14, called out the damage control officer. "Emergency teams responding." Hayes gripped the railing of the command platform. "Where's that emergency? Power, Mr. Reed." Tom's voice came back strained. "Working on it, Admiral. Maria is attempting to modify the core geometry to increase output." Suddenly, a new alarm sounded. "Sir!" Lisa called out, her voice tight with urgency. "3 more Dominion. Ships are approaching from Pluto." Hayes exchanged a grim look with Walker. They couldn't fight 3 more ships in their current condition. Just then, Tom's voice came over the comm. "Admiral, Maria did it. We have access to the secondary power grid. It was locked behind some kind of alien encryption, but the ship, it seems to have granted us access." "The ship?" Hayes questioned. "I can't explain it, sir. It's like it recognized our need." Hayes didn't have time to contemplate this mystery. Route the power to the main weapon system. It's time to see what this Star Destroyer can really do. On the bridge, panels lit up that had previously been dark. A new targeting system appeared on the main screen, highlighting the approaching Dominion ships. "Main weapon charged and ready," Walker reported, sounding surprised at how quickly it had happened. Hayes took a deep breath. "Target the lead ship and fire." A pulse of energy gathered at the front of Thunderbolt, building quickly, to a blinding intensity. Then it released in a concentrated beam that cut through space toward the Dominion vessel. When it struck, the effect was immediate and devastating. The Dominion ship didn't just break apart. It seemed to fold in on itself, crushed by forces beyond human understanding. The remaining Dominion ships immediately changed course, accelerating away from Mars at maximum speed. "They're retreating," Walker said, his voice filled with disbelief. Hayes nodded slowly. "But they'll be back, and next time, they'll be prepared. For us." He turned to his communications officer. "Send word to Earth. Tell them we've won the first battle, but the war has just begun." As the crew cheered around him, Hayes looked at the tactical display showing the retreating Dominion ships. They were heading back toward the outer solar system. back toward what he assumed was a larger force waiting beyond. Humanity had scored its first victory. But at what cost? And would they be ready when the Dominion returned in force? The repair crews worked day and night to fix Thunderbolt's damaged systems. The battle against the Dominion scouts had taken its toll. Scorch marks marred the once pristine hull, and several sections remained sealed off due to hull breaches. Admiral Hayes stood in the observation lounge watching as space-suited workers moved across the ship's exterior, welding new plates into place. Captain Walker entered quietly and stood beside him. "Damage report, Captain?" Hayes asked without turning. "Repairs are at 68%, Walker replied. "Tom believes we can be fully operational in 3 more days." Hayes nodded. "And our casualties?" Walker's face fell. 17 dead, 43 injured. Medical says most of the injured will recover fully. The first battle had been won, but at a cost. Hayes had written 17 letters to families back on Earth, explaining how their loved ones had died protecting humanity. It was a burden he carried heavily. "New intelligence from deep space probes," Walker continued, handing Hayes a tablet. "Dr. Morgan wants to brief you immediately." In the Strategic Command Center, Dr. Morgan had transformed the room into a 3D map of the solar system and beyond. Small lights indicated the position of Earth forces and the known locations of Dominion ships. "The scouts have retreated beyond Neptune," she began as Hayes entered. "But they're sending constant transmissions toward this area of space." She pointed to a region far beyond Pluto. "What's out there?" Hayes asked. "Based on the data from the alien warning and what our long-range sensors can detect, we believe this is the location of the Dominion's main fleet." Morgan adjusted the display, showing a massive concentration of ships. "And this?" she continued, highlighting one enormous signal. "Appears to be their flagship. We're calling it Oblivion." Hayes studied the display. "How big?" "At least 3 times the size of Thunderbolt," Morgan answered grimly. "And according to the warning left for us, it carries a weapon capable of destabilizing a planet's core. They've used it before to destroy civilizations that resisted." The room fell silent as this information sank in. "Time until they reach Earth?" Hayes finally asked. "At their current speed, 4 weeks. But now that they know we have advanced technology, they'll be cautious. They might send more scouts first." Hayes nodded slowly, his mind racing through options. "They know we have one weapon that can match them. They'll be prepared for it next time." "Which is why we need to surprise them again," said Morgan. "Admiral, I've been studying the propulsion systems more deeply. There's something we missed." She tapped on her tablet and a new set of schematics appeared on the main display. "The ship isn't just designed for conventional space travel. There's a system here that I believe is meant for faster-than-light travel." Hayes looked skeptical. "FTL? That's impossible according to our physics, and our physics, yes. But whoever left us these blueprints clearly had a different understanding of the universe." Morgan highlighted a section of the ship they hadn't yet fully activated. "This appears to be a wormhole generator. In theory, it could create a temporary passage through space-time." Tom Reed, who had joined them silently, stepped forward. "Maria and I discovered some unusual components in the drive system that didn't make sense for normal propulsion. This could explain them." Hayes looked between them. "Are you suggesting we could jump beyond our solar system? Attack them before they reach Earth?" "Theoretically, yes," Morgan answered. "But it would be incredibly risky. We haven't tested the system and we don't fully understand it." Hayes was quiet for a long moment. "Prepare a briefing for Earth Command. I want all the data on this FTL, capability and an assessment of our chances." The Earth Defense Council meeting was tense. On screens around the room, leaders from every major nation watched as Admiral Hayes presented the plan. "A preemptive strike against the Dominion flagship could cripple their command structure," he explained. "If we wait for them to reach Earth, we'll be fighting their entire fleet in our own backyard." "This is madness," argued the Russian representative. "You're talking about sending our only defense on a suicide mission." "With respect," Hayes countered, "we're talking about taking the fight to them instead of waiting to be slaughtered." The debate continued for hours. Finally, the Secretary General called for a vote. By a narrow margin, the mission was approved. 3. Days later, Thunderbolt's repairs were complete. The crew had been given one last day to contact their families before departing. No one said it out loud, but everyone knew it might be their final goodbye. On the bridge, Hayes took his command chair. All stations report. One by one, each section confirmed readiness. Engineering reports the wormhole generator is online, Tom announced from his station. Maria has reconfigured the power systems to handle the load. Hayes nodded. Navigator, set course for the coordinates Dr. Morgan provided. Course set, Admiral. Hayes took a deep breath. Activate the wormhole generator. Tom initiated the sequence. At first, nothing seemed to happen. Then slowly a blue glow began to emanate from the front of the ship. Space itself appeared to bend and distort. Energy readings are off the charts, Lisa called from the sensor station. Something's forming ahead. On the main view screen, they watched as space tore open, forming a swirling tunnel of blue-white. Energy. Wormhole stable, Tom reported, though his voice betrayed his amazement. It's actually working. Take us in, Hayes ordered, half thrust. Thunderbolt moved forward, approaching the wormhole's entrance. As the ship entered the swirling vortex, vibrations shook the entire vessel. Lights flickered, and several systems went offline temporarily. Hull integrity holding, Walker reported. We're inside the wormhole. Through the view screen, they could see nothing but swirling energy patterns. The ship continued forward, shaking violently as it traveled through the fabric of space-time itself. Then suddenly the vibrations stopped. The blue-white energy disappeared and they emerged into normal space. Location? Hayes demanded. Lisa worked her console frantically. Checking stars against database. Sir, we're approximately 40 light-years from Earth. The jump worked. A cheer went up from the bridge crew, but Hayes quickly restored order. Stealth systems online, passive sensors only. Let's see what's out here. As the sensors began to scan, the crew fell silent. On the view screen, they could see a massive fleet of Dominion ships gathered around a central world. And at the center of the fleet was the largest vessel any of them had ever seen. Oblivion, Hayes whispered. Admiral, Lisa called, her voice tense. I'm detecting something else. Other ships, but with different energy signatures than the Dominion vessels. They appear to be under attack. Dr. Morgan moved to the sensor station. These readings, they match descriptions from the warning. I think these are ships from other civilizations that the Dominion has conquered. Can we communicate with them? Hayes asked. Morgan nodded slowly. Maybe. The warning contained communication protocols. If some of these species are the ones who left us the blueprints, do it, Hayes ordered. Carefully. Encoded channel only. As Morgan worked to establish contact, Hayes studied the massive Dominion fleet. They had come to launch a preemptive strike, but now faced a force far larger than intelligence had suggested. Sir, called the communications officer, we're receiving a response to Dr. Morgan's signal, audio only. Put it through, Hayes ordered. A voice spoke in a strange musical language that the ship's computer quickly translated. Unknown vessel, you are not Dominion. Identify yourselves. Hayes nodded to Morgan, who replied, We are from Earth. We've come to fight the Dominion. There was a pause, then, Earth? The protected world? You were not meant to join this fight for many cycles yet. Hayes took over. We had no choice. The Dominion found us. We built the weapon you left for us. Another long pause. Then perhaps there is hope after all. We are the Resistance, and you have arrived just in time. The meeting chamber aboard the Resistance flagship was unlike anything the humans had ever seen. The ceiling curved in impossible angles, and the walls seemed to shimmer with a soft blue light. Around a large circular table sat representatives from 6 different alien species. Some looked almost human, while others were completely different in form. Admiral Hayes, Captain Walker, Dr. Morgan, and Tom Reed represented Earth. They sat quietly, As the leader of the resistance, a tall being with silvery skin named Talon explained their situation. The Dominion has ruled this sector of the galaxy for over 10,000 years, Talon said, his translator converting his musical language to English. They find developing worlds, harvest their resources, and enslave their populations. Those who resist are destroyed. How have you managed to fight them for so long? Hayes asked. A smaller alien with 4 arms gestured to the hologram in the center of the table. We hide. We strike when possible. But we have never had a weapon that could truly threaten their command ship. Dr. Morgan leaned forward. The blueprints you left on Earth. Why us? Talon's expression changed in a way that suggested a smile. Your world was special. Your species develops quickly, adapts, solves problems in unique ways. We left similar blueprints on 100 worlds. Only Earth managed to build the weapon, in time. And now you want us to use it against Oblivion, Hayes stated. Talon nodded. The Dominion fleet is preparing to depart for your solar system. The main ship carries a weapon that can destroy planets. If they reach Earth. We understand, Hayes said firmly. But Thunderbolt is just one ship. Even with its main weapon, we can't take on their entire fleet. The 4-armed alien, who introduced himself as Mira, brought up a new hologram. We have a plan. Our combined fleet can create a diversion. While their forces are engaged with us, Thunderbolt can approach Oblivion from this trajectory. A line appeared on the hologram showing a path through the Dominion fleet. It's risky, Walker observed. Everything about this mission is risky, Captain, Hayes replied. He studied the plan for a moment, then nodded. We'll do it. When do we attack? The Dominion ships are scheduled to begin their journey toward Earth in 6 hours, Talon answered. We strike before they depart. Back aboard Thunderbolt, Hayes addressed the crew through the ship-wide communication system. Men and women of Earth, today we fight not just for our world, but for all worlds threatened by the Dominion. We are outmatched and far from home, but we have one advantage. They don't expect us to be here. They don't expect us to have allies. He paused. Some of us may not return from this mission, but those who do will tell Earth that when humanity faced its greatest challenge, we did not hide. We stood and fought. In the engine room, Maria worked frantically with Tom to prepare the ship's systems for battle. The main weapon drained almost all our power when we used it against one ship, Maria said, concern clear in her voice. How are we supposed to take down something the size of Oblivion? Tom looked thoughtful. What if we overload the core? Channel. Everything we have, life support, shields, everything, into one massive burst? That would destroy the ship, Maria protested. Maybe, Tom admitted, but it might be our only chance to destroy Oblivion. 3 hours later, the combined fleet of Resistance ships moved into position. Thunderbolt, with its advanced stealth systems, held back, waiting for the diversion to begin. On the bridge, Hayes watched as the first wave of Resistance fighters attacked the outer perimeter of the Dominion fleet. Explosions flashed in the darkness of space as the battle began. Dominion ships are responding to the attack, Lisa reported from her sensor station. Their defensive line is moving to engage. Hayes nodded. Hold position. Wait for the opening. The battle intensified. The Resistance ships were smaller and more agile, but the Dominion vessels had superior firepower. For every Dominion ship disabled, 2 Resistance craft were destroyed. Sir, Walker said quietly, at this rate, the Resistance will be wiped out before we get our shot. Hayes knew he was right. Prepare to move in, maximum stealth. Thunderbolt glided forward, its advanced cloaking systems making it nearly invisible against the backdrop of space. They passed within kilometers of Dominion cruisers engaged in battle, undetected. We're approaching Oblivion, the navigator announced. 2 minutes to weapons range. Hayes opened a channel to engineering. Mr. Reed, status of the main weapon? Tom's voice came back tense. Ready, Admiral. But as we discussed, I've modified the firing sequence. Once initiated, we'll have 5 minutes before the core overloads. Understood. Hayes turned to Walker. Prepare evacuation protocols. Once we fire, I want all non-essential personnel to the escape pods. Suddenly, alarms blared. We've been detected, Lisa called out. Dominion ships are breaking off to intercept us. Time to weapons range? Hayes demanded. 90 seconds, but we'll have company before then. Hayes made his decision. All power to engines. Get us to firing position. Thunderbolt surged forward, abandoning stealth for speed. Energy beams from Dominion ships lanced toward them, some finding their mark. Shields at 60%, Walker reported. Taking heavy damage on decks 4 through 7, the massive form of Oblivion grew larger on the view screen. It was a terrifying sight, a ship the size of a small moon bristling with weapons. Weapons range in 15 seconds, the tactical officer called. Another hit rocked the ship. Hull, breach in engineering, someone shouted. Hayes opened the channel again. Tom, status? There was no response. Engineering report, Hayes demanded. Finally, Maria's voice came through, shaking and distant. Tom's been injured, Admiral. The breach. He's trying to stabilize the core manually. Hayes felt a cold fear grip him. Can you fire the main weapon? Yes, but someone needs to stay and manage the overload sequence. The system is damaged. It needs manual control. Before Hayes could respond, Tom's voice cut in, weak but determined. I've got it, Admiral. Get the ship to firing position. I'll handle the rest. In that moment, Hayes knew what Tom was planning. Mr. Reed? It's the only way, sir. The system won't hold. Someone has to stay and make sure the power flows correctly. There was a pause. It's been an honor. Hayes closed his eyes briefly. The honor is ours, Mr. Reed. He turned to the tactical officer. Target Oblivion's command center. Fire when ready. Thunderbolt's main weapon began to charge, drawing power from every system on the ship. Lights, dimmed and non-essential systems shut down automatically. Dominion ships closing in, Walker warned. 30 seconds until they're in range. They're too late, Hayes said quietly. Fire. The massive energy beam erupted from Thunderbolt, more powerful than before. It cut through space and struck Oblivion, directly in its command section. At first, nothing seemed to happen. Then, slowly, cracks of bright energy began to spread across the massive ship's hull. In engineering, Tom worked at a damaged console, manually routing power to maintain the beam. Blood trickled from a wound on his forehead, but his hands moved steadily. As the power levels reached critical, he opened a channel to the bridge one last time. It's working, Admiral. The reaction is building. Get everyone out now. Hayes gave the order. All hands to escape pods, evacuate immediately. He turned to Walker. Captain, get everyone off the bridge. What about you, sir? I'll be right behind you, go. As the bridge crew evacuated, Hayes watched the view screen. Oblivion was breaking apart, secondary explosions cascading along its length. Around it, Dominion. Ships were falling into disarray. Hayes opened a final channel to engineering. Tom, if you can hear me, your sacrifice won't be forgotten. Earth will know what you did here today. There was no response, but Hayes liked to think that Tom heard him. The Admiral took one last look at the bridge of humanity's first Star Destroyer, then made his way to the last escape pod. 3 weeks later, a small fleet of ships emerged from a wormhole near Earth. Leading them was a battered resistance vessel carrying Admiral Hayes, Captain Walker, Dr. Morgan, and the surviving crew of Thunderbolt. Behind them came ships of the Resistance, representatives of civilizations that had fought the Dominion for generations. They had come to meet Earth, to welcome humanity into the greater galactic community. As they approached Earth, Hayes stood by a viewport watching his home planet grow larger. Was it worth it? Dr. Morgan asked, joining him. Hayes thought of Tom Reed and the others who had given their lives. He thought of Thunderbolt, Earth's first Star Destroyer, now gone but not forgotten. Yes, he said finally. We're free. And we're not alone anymore. On the view screen, a message appeared from Earth Command. Welcome home, heroes. And behind that message was the image of a new ship under construction in Earth orbit. Larger, more powerful, and built with the combined knowledge of Earth and its new allies. The second Star Destroyer was taking shape, ready to defend not just Earth, but all free worlds in the galaxy. The morning sky burned orange and red. It was not the usual sunrise that Tom Miller had seen every day for the last 40 years of his life. This was different. This was fire. This was the end. Tom stood on the rooftop of his small house on the outskirts of Pine City, his eyes fixed on the horizon where dark shapes moved against the burning sky. The radio beside him crackled with desperate reports from around the world. They had all seen the ships 3 days ago, massive dark vessels that had appeared suddenly in orbit around Earth. "This is not happening," Tom whispered to himself, clutching his old Navy cap in his weathered hands. His years as a naval engineer had taught him about warfare, about ships, about weapons. Nothing had prepared him for this. The alien vessels were called the Dominion by news reporters, a name that seemed to fit their purpose. They came without warning or message. Their first attack had disabled every major military installation across the globe in less than 2 hours. The radio announcer's voice shook as he reported, "London has gone dark. Tokyo is under attack. Washington, D.C. reports complete destruction of defensive capabilities." The list went on. Tom watched as smaller ships broke away from the larger vessels. They moved with impossible speed, descending toward major cities. Pine City might be small, but the military base 10 miles east made it a target. He should run. That would be the smart thing to do. But where? Reports said nowhere was safe. The ground shook as the first explosions hit the military base. Even from this distance, Tom could see the massive fireballs rising into the sky. The base housed some of Earth's most advanced weapons systems. They were supposed to protect people. They were supposed to be unbeatable. The phone lines had gone dead hours ago, but Tom's old emergency radio still picked up some channels. He heard the desperate voice of Colonel Barnes from the base. "They've penetrated all defenses. Our missiles don't even reach them before I don't know what they're doing, but they're just disappearing. We're launching everything we've got." Tom watched as streaks of light rose from the base, missiles, hundreds of them, launching toward the alien ship hovering above. The missiles approached the dark vessel, then simply vanished. No explosions, no impacts, they simply ceased to exist. "God help us," Tom murmured. The response was swift and terrible. A beam of blinding blue light shot down from the ship, so bright that Tom had to shield his eyes. When he looked back, the entire military base was gone. In its place was a perfect crater, edges still glowing red. 20,000 soldiers, gone in seconds. Tom's legs gave way beneath him, and he sank to his knees on the rooftop. Across the world, this same scene was playing out. Humanity's most powerful weapons, their strongest defenses, were nothing against this enemy. His radio crackled again. This time it was the president's voice, tired and defeated. "My fellow Americans, my fellow citizens of Earth. After consulting with world leaders and military advisors, we have made the difficult decision to offer our unconditional surrender to the forces known as the Dominion. To continue fighting would mean the loss of countless more innocent lives. I ask all military personnel to lay down their arms. I ask all citizens to comply with any directives issued by these visitors. We will survive this. Humanity will endure. But first, we must live through today." Tom couldn't believe what he was hearing. Surrender? The world's most powerful nations, giving up after just 3 days? But as he looked at the smoking crater that had been a state-of-the-art military base, he understood. This wasn't a war. It was an extermination. The days that followed were chaos. The Dominion ships positioned themselves above major cities worldwide. From these ships came smaller craft carrying the first Dominion beings humans had seen up close. They were tall, at least 7 feet in height, with gray-blue skin that seemed to shimmer slightly in sunlight. Their faces had features similar to humans. Eyes, though larger and entirely black. A mouth-like opening, 2 ear-like structures, but arranged in proportions that made them deeply unsettling to look at. Tom saw them for the first time a week after the initial attack. They had established a regional control center in what had been Pine City's town hall. The streets were patrolled by floating mechanical orbs that could stun or kill with beams, similar to what had destroyed the military base just on a smaller scale. He stood in line with hundreds of other residents waiting to be processed. Each person was scanned, had blood taken, and was issued an identification chip embedded painlessly into their wrist. No one resisted. They had all seen what happened, to those who did. "Move forward," said a mechanical voice from one of the orbs. "Present arm for identification processing." Tom did as instructed, watching as a thin needle extended from the orb and pressed into his wrist. There was a slight pinch, then nothing. A small bump remained under his skin. "Thomas Miller," the mechanical voice announced. "Former military, engineer. Assignment: Technical Maintenance Staff, Sector 7, report tomorrow at sunrise." Tom looked up in surprise. "How did you—" "Your skills have been cataloged. You will serve the Dominion by maintaining basic infrastructure. Resistance will result in termination. Compliance will be rewarded with rations and shelter." That night, Tom sat in his dark house. Power had been cut to most residential areas, thinking about what had happened. The most powerful militaries in the world had been defeated in days. The most advanced weapons humans had created might as well have been sticks and stones against the Dominion technology. For the first time in his life, Tom understood what it meant to be truly helpless. Humanity had always prided itself on its adaptability, its intelligence, its fighting spirit. None of that mattered against an enemy so far beyond them. In the distance, he could see the lights of the Dominion Control Center. They had already begun transforming it, adding structures that seemed to grow rather than be built, technology that defied understanding. "We were never ready," Tom whispered to himself. "All our wars, all our progress. We thought we were so advanced." As he looked up at the night sky, now permanently changed by the presence of the massive Dominion ships, Tom wondered if there was any hope left for humanity. They were conquered, occupied, reduced to servants in a matter of days. But deep inside, something stubborn refused to accept this new reality. It wasn't a plan, or even an idea yet. Just a tiny spark of the human spirit that had carried his species through ice ages, plagues, and their own destructive tendencies. Tomorrow he would report for duty. Tomorrow he would begin his life under Dominion rule. Tomorrow he would appear broken and obedient. And tomorrow he would begin to watch, to learn, to understand these conquerors. Because if there was one thing Tom knew about humans, it was that they were at their most dangerous when they appeared to be at their weakest. The war had proven humanity helpless. But perhaps, just perhaps, that was not the end of the story. 6 months had passed since the day the sky burned. 6 months of living under Dominion rule. 6 months of Tom Miller keeping his head down, eyes open, and mind alert. The morning alarm sounded, a harsh electronic pulse that the Dominion had installed in every human dwelling. Tom rubbed his tired eyes and rose from his small bed. His tiny apartment was one of hundreds in what the Dominion called Worker Housing Block 12. It had once been a hotel before they converted it. "Another day serving our overlords," Tom muttered as he splashed cold water on his face. Hot water was a luxury not permitted to human workers. He put on his gray maintenance uniform and checked his wrist chip. It glowed slightly, showing he had 30 minutes to report to his station at the regional hub. Being late meant reduced rations or worse. As Tom walked through the quiet streets of what used to be Pine City, he noted the changes. The Dominion structures had grown like metallic plants, twisting upward and connecting to create a network above the human buildings. Their technology seemed almost alive, adapting and growing rather than being constructed. Floating security. Orbs hovered at street corners, their black lenses tracking every human movement. Tom kept his pace steady and his eyes down, the picture of a broken, obedient worker. But Tom wasn't broken, not inside. "Morning, Tom," whispered a voice as he passed an alley. It was Lisa, a former doctor now working in the Dominion Medical Facility. Her once bright eyes were now shadowed with exhaustion, but they still held a spark of defiance. "Morning," Tom replied quietly, not breaking his stride. "Meeting tonight?" "Yes, Jack has news. Be careful today." Tom gave a slight nod and continued walking. Lisa was part of what they called the Whisper Network. Humans who shared information, watched the Dominion, and kept hope alive. It wasn't resistance, not yet. Just people refusing to surrender their minds even when their bodies had no choice. The regional hub loomed ahead, a massive structure that pulsed with blue energy. It had once been the town hall, but the Dominion had transformed it beyond recognition. Tom scanned his wrist chip at the entrance and was admitted inside. "Worker Miller, report to Section 14 for pipe maintenance," announced the automated system. Tom nodded and headed toward the lower levels. His job involved maintaining the human-built infrastructure that the Dominion still used. Water systems, basic electrical components, ventilation. They could have built their own superior versions, but the Dominion seemed to prefer making humans maintain their own outdated systems. It was efficient and humiliating at the same time. But it gave Tom access. Access was information. Information might someday be power. In Section 14, Tom opened a maintenance panel and began checking the water flow regulators. As he worked, he listened to the Dominion guards nearby. They spoke in their own language, a series of clicks and humming tones, but occasionally used translation devices when addressing human workers. One guard approached, towering over Tom. Like all Dominion beings, it was nearly 7 feet tall with shimmering gray-blue skin and those disturbing black eyes. "Worker, increase water pressure to level 3, it commanded through its translator. "Yes, sir," Tom replied, keeping his voice flat. "May I ask why?" "The system is calibrated for optimal." "Do not question. Increase pressure." Tom adjusted the controls. "Done, sir." The guard moved away, but not before Tom noticed something strange. It seemed nervous, glancing repeatedly at a data pad it carried. This wasn't the first time Tom had noticed the Dominion soldiers acting oddly. They were supposed to be the conquerors, yet sometimes they behaved like they were the ones under threat. Later that day, while repairing a ventilation shaft, Tom found himself able to overhear a conversation between two high-ranking Dominion officers. He couldn't see them, but their voices carried through the metal ductwork. "The orbital scanners have detected no sign of it," one voice said. "They will come. The Harbinger always follows the same pattern," replied another, deeper voice. "We must prepare the defense grid. This planet's resources must be protected. The humans are resistant to control. They will be difficult to use when the time comes. They will serve or die. Their weakness made them easy to conquer. Their bodies will make adequate shields." Tom froze, barely breathing. Shields? Against what? And what was the Harbinger? He memorized everything he heard before continuing his work, careful not to make a sound. That night after his shift, Tom made his way to the meeting place, the basement of an abandoned library. The Dominion had little interest in human books, considering them primitive and worthless. This made the library one of the few safe places to gather. Jack was already there when Tom arrived. A former communications technician, Jack now worked cleaning the Dominion's communication arrays, a tight job they thought too menial for their own kind. "You're late," Jack said as Tom slipped inside. "Had to take a longer route, more patrols tonight." Lisa arrived moments later, followed by 3 others: Mike, a former police officer, Dora, who worked in food distribution, and Pete, who had access to the Dominion's waste disposal system. "I've noticed something," Tom began, keeping his voice low. "The Dominion soldiers are acting strange, nervous. I overheard them talking about something called the Harbinger and preparing defenses." Jack nodded. "That matches what I've seen. They've been redirecting communication arrays toward the outer solar system, looking for something." "They're scared," Mike added. "I can see it when I'm assigned to guard duty transport. These aren't the actions of confident conquerors." Lisa pulled out a small notebook, paper being one technology the Dominion didn't bother to monitor. "I've been documenting behavior changes in the command staff. Increased stress indicators, sleep cycle disruptions. Something's happening." "There's more," Tom said. "I heard them say humans would make adequate shields. Whatever's coming, they plan to use us against it." The room fell silent as everyone absorbed this information. "So we're not just slaves," Dora whispered. "We're cannon fodder." Pete, who rarely spoke, cleared his throat. "I found something yesterday." He reached into his pocket and pulled out a small metallic object. It was in the disposal unit from the command center. Tom took the object. It was a data storage device, similar to the ones the Dominion used but damaged. "Can we read it?" "I've been working on that," Jack said. "I might be able to connect it to some old human tech. The systems are different, but I've been studying their technology." As they discussed plans to decode the device, Tom's mind raced. The Dominion weren't just conquerors. They were running from something that terrified them enough to seize Earth as a defensive position. "Whatever's coming," Tom said quietly. "It might be our only chance." The meeting ended, and they slipped away one by one, returning to their assigned housing before curfew. As Tom walked through the dark streets, he looked up at the night sky. Somewhere up there, beyond the Dominion ships that still orbited Earth, something was coming, something the mighty Dominion feared. For the first time since the invasion, Tom felt something close to hope. Not because he believed whatever was coming would be their savior. It might be even worse than the Dominion. But because fear made even the strongest enemies vulnerable. And vulnerability could be exploited. Humanity had been proven weak and helpless in war. But perhaps their strength lay elsewhere, in watching, waiting, and being underestimated. Tomorrow, Tom would return to fixing pipes and pretending to be broken. But tonight he allowed himself to dream of freedom. The alarm blared throughout the Dominion Regional Hub, a sound Tom had never heard before. It was different from the usual signals, higher pitched, more urgent. Something was happening. Tom was in the middle of repairing an electrical circuit when the first alarm sounded. Moments later, Dominion soldiers rushed through the corridors, their normally measured movements now quick and disorganized. "All human workers return to quarters immediately," announced the automated system. "This is not a drill. Return to quarters." But Tom didn't move toward the exit. Instead, he slipped into a maintenance shaft, one he had discovered during his months of quiet exploration. The narrow passage ran between walls, allowing access to critical systems and providing an excellent hiding place. Through a small vent, Tom watched as Dominion commanders gathered in the central command room. Their translator devices were active, allowing him to understand their frantic conversation. "The object has entered the solar system," said one commander, its black eyes fixed on a large display screen. "Speed is beyond anything we've recorded." "Size?" asked another. "Massive, at least twice the size of our largest vessel." A third commander, with markings Tom recognized as indicating higher rank, stepped forward. "Send the alert to all Earth stations. Move defense platforms to outer orbit positions. Prepare the human containment areas." Tom felt his heart race. Was this the harbinger they had feared? For weeks, the Whisper network had been piecing together information. Jack had partially decoded the damaged data device, revealing fragments of information about something the Dominion called the Judgment. Whatever was approaching, the Dominion had encountered it before, and it had not gone well for them. As Tom watched through the vent, the main screen displayed an image that made even the Dominion commanders step back. A massive vessel, unlike anything Tom had ever seen, was visible at the edge of the solar system. It didn't look like the Dominion ships with their angular metallic designs. This vessel was smooth, almost organic in appearance, glowing with a soft blue light. "It's them," whispered one commander. "The Harbinger has found us again." Tom needed to get this information to the others. Carefully, he backed away from the vent and moved through the maintenance shaft toward an exit he knew would be less guarded during an emergency. Outside, chaos had erupted. Dominion soldiers were herding humans toward safety zones, really just containment areas where they could be easily controlled, or, Tom now realized, used as shields. The floating security orbs were everywhere, stunning anyone who resisted. Tom ducked behind buildings, using his knowledge of the patrol patterns to avoid detection. He needed to reach the library basement, When he finally arrived, Lisa and Jack were already there, along with several others he hadn't seen before. "They're here," Tom said, catching his breath. "The Harbinger, it's a ship, massive. The Dominion are terrified." Jack nodded grimly. "It's all over their communication channels. They're calling all ships back to Earth orbit." "We decoded more of the data," Lisa added, spreading papers on a table. "The Harbinger isn't just one ship. It's the advanced scout for something called the Guardians. The Dominion have encountered them before on other worlds they tried to conquer." "What are they?" Tom asked. "We don't know exactly," Jack replied. "But the Dominion fear them enough to abandon other conquered planets to escape them." The ground suddenly shook beneath their feet. A distant roar filled the air. "They've started firing," Mike said from near a boarded window. "The orbital platforms are attacking the approaching ship." They all fell silent, listening to the distant sounds of weapons fire. It was impossible to tell what was happening without seeing it. Then Lisa's small radio crackled to life. She had modified it to pick up Dominion communication frequencies, a dangerous but valuable tool. "All units, defensive failure," came a panicked voice through the static. "Orbital platforms 3, 7, and 12 have been destroyed. The vessel has not returned fire. Repeat, the vessel has not returned fire. It continues approach to Earth orbit." Tom and the others exchanged glances. The Dominion's most powerful weapons, the same ones that had decimated Earth's military in hours, were ineffective against this new arrival. "Does that mean they're on our side?" asked Dora hopefully. "Don't count on it," Tom cautioned. "Whatever they are, they're powerful enough to scare the Dominion. That doesn't make them our friends." The radio crackled again. "All commanders, priority alert. The vessel is broadcasting on all frequencies. It's using human languages." Tom grabbed the radio. "What did they say? What languages?" As if, in answer, every electronic device in the room came to life at once. The radio, an old television in the corner, even the small tablet Jack had repaired. All displayed the same message, cycling through languages: English, Spanish, Chinese, Arabic, and dozens more. The message was simple. "We come for what was stolen. We are ready." "Ready?" Pete whispered. "Is that their name?" "Or a warning?" Mike suggested. Before they could discuss further, another tremor shook the building. Stronger this time. Dust fell from the ceiling. "We need to see what's happening," Tom decided. The old observatory on the hill might still have telescopes. Despite the danger, they agreed it was necessary. Moving in small groups to avoid detection, they made their way across town to the abandoned observatory. The Dominion had little interest in human scientific facilities, considering them primitive. The main telescope was intact. Jack, who had some experience with astronomy, quickly adjusted it to focus on the sky. "Look," he gasped, stepping back to let the others see. Tom peered through the eyepiece. What he saw took his breath away. The Dominion ships were in disarray, some attempting to flee, others firing uselessly at the massive vessel that now hung in Earth orbit. The vessel, Ready, as it had called itself, was beautiful in a strange way, its surface shifting with patterns of light. As they watched, smaller craft began to detach from Ready, descending toward Earth. Unlike the aggressive approach of the Dominion invasion, these craft moved slowly, deliberately. "They're landing outside the city," Lisa said, watching through binoculars from the observatory window. The radio they had brought suddenly came alive again, this time with the voice of the highest-ranking Dominion commander. "All units, defensive positions around the central archives. The Guardians must not reach the artifact storage. Use human shields if necessary." "Artifact storage?" Tom repeated. "What artifacts?" "Whatever it is, it's important enough for them to make a last stand," Jack said. "And it's in the central building where you work, Tom." Tom thought quickly. He knew that building better than anyone in their group, including the hidden maintenance passages. "We need to get there before the Dominion sets up their defenses," he decided. "If these new arrivals are looking for something the Dominion stole, I want to know what it is." It could be a trap, Mike warned. What if both sides are hostile to humans? Tom nodded. That's why only I should go. The rest of you should try to warn as many people as possible to stay hidden until we know more. Lisa grabbed his arm. That's suicide, Tom. Maybe, he admitted. But for the first time since they arrived, the Dominion are afraid. This might be our only chance to learn why. As the others reluctantly agreed to his plan, Tom looked out the window at the chaos unfolding across the city. Dominion soldiers were abandoning outer posts, rushing to defend something at the center. In the distance, strange craft with glowing blue hulls descended from the sky. Whatever happened next would change everything. Again. Be careful, Lisa said as Tom prepared to leave. He nodded, a grim smile on his face. Humanity was too weak to win the war, but maybe we're not too weak to pick the winning side. With that, Tom slipped out into the night, heading toward the heart of the Dominion Control Center as the sky above filled with the light of battle. Tom pressed his body against the cold wall of the maintenance shaft, barely breathing as a group of Dominion soldiers rushed past the thin metal panel that hid him. The central hub was in chaos. Alarms blared continuously, and the usual orderly movement of the alien conquerors had dissolved into panicked activity. Using the narrow maintenance passages he had mapped during months of careful observation, Tom made his way deeper into the Dominion Command Center. His destination was the lower level, an area normally forbidden to human workers. According to the radio transmission they had intercepted, something called artifact storage was located there, something important enough for the Dominion to make their last stand. A violent tremor shook the building, nearly causing Tom to lose his balance. The Dominion's defensive weapons were firing at something, and the impacts were getting closer. Whatever battles were happening in orbit had clearly moved to the ground. After navigating through several more passages, Tom reached a ventilation grate that overlooked a large chamber he had never seen before. Carefully, he peered through the slats. The room below was unlike any other Dominion facility, while most of their technology was angular and metallic. This chamber contained dozens of glass containers arranged in concentric circles. Inside each container was an object that glowed with soft light. Some appeared to be simple stones, others complex mechanical devices, but all radiated an energy Tom could almost feel. Dominion commanders stood in defensive positions around the room, weapons ready. Their usual calm arrogance was gone, replaced by what Tom recognized as fear. "They're almost here," said one commander. "Outer defenses have fallen." "The human shields are in position?" asked another. "Yes. 500 humans have been placed between us and their approach route." Tom's stomach clenched. 500 people forced to stand between two alien forces with no protection. He had to do something. Before he could move, a new tremor shook the building, stronger than before. The lights flickered, and then a section of wall simply disappeared. Not exploded, not broken, but seemingly erased from existence. Through this perfect opening walked beings unlike any Tom had seen before. They were humanoid in shape, but taller than humans, with skin that seemed to glow from within. Their faces were oddly familiar. 2 eyes, nose, mouth, but proportioned differently, giving them an uncanny appearance that was both alien and somehow recognizable. "Guardians," whispered one of the Dominion commanders, the translation device, making its voice sound strangled with fear. The lead Guardian stepped forward. "You were warned," it said in perfect, unaccented English. "This sector was protected. These people were protected." "We claim this world by right of conquest," replied the highest-ranking Dominion commander. "The primitives could not defend themselves. And yet you fear them enough to study their past?" the Guardian said, gesturing to the glowing containers. "You fear their potential." Tom strained to see better. What were those objects? Why did the Dominion have them? The standoff was interrupted by weapons fire. A desperate Dominion soldier had fired at the Guardians. The energy beam struck a Guardian but seemed to pass through it without effect. The response was immediate. A pulse of blue light swept through the room, disabling the Dominion weapons. Your choice has been made, the lead guardian said. You will leave this world now, or you will not leave at all. The Dominion commander hesitated, then made a signal to its troops. As one, they began to back toward another exit. Tom saw his chance. In the confusion, he pushed open the ventilation grate and dropped into the room, landing behind a row of containment units. Neither the retreating Dominion nor the advancing Guardians noticed him. Once the Dominion had withdrawn, the Guardians approached the glowing containers. Tom remained hidden, watching and listening. The artifacts are intact, one Guardian said. They did not manage to unlock their secrets. Some are missing, noted another. They must have been taken to their ships. The lead Guardian, whose clothing bore markings that suggested rank or importance, surveyed the room. We must secure these immediately, then find the humans they were using as shields. Tom decided to take a risk. He stood up slowly, hands raised. I can help with that. All the Guardians turned to face him, their expressions unreadable. The lead Guardian approached. You are brave or foolish to reveal yourself, it said. Probably both, Tom admitted. My name is Tom Miller. I'm with a group that's been watching the Dominion gathering information. We know where they might have taken those people. The Guardian studied him for a long moment. I am Alan. Alan? Tom couldn't hide his surprise at the ordinary human name. A slight expression that might have been amusement crossed the Guardian's face. It is the closest approximation of my name in your language. It will suffice. Another Guardian approached, carrying one of the glowing artifacts, a small pyramid-shaped object. The genetic key is responding to his presence, it said. Alan's attention sharpened. Interesting. He turned back to Tom. These artifacts are part of your planet's heritage. They were left here long ago, to be discovered when humanity was ready. Ready, Tom repeated. Like your ship's name. Yes. Ready is not just a name. It is a designation. It means the time has come. The time for what? Before Alan could answer, another Guardian approached. The Dominion forces are retreating. To orbit. Their ships are preparing to jump. Let them go, Alan decided. Our priority is the safety of this world and the recovery of the artifacts. He turned back to Tom. You offered help. Will you take me to your leaders? Tom almost laughed. We don't have leaders anymore. The Dominion destroyed our governments. But I can take you to people I trust. As they prepared to leave, Tom pointed to the glowing containers. What are these things? Why did the Dominion want them? Alan picked up a small crystal-like object that pulsed with blue light. These are tools and records left by my people when we visited Earth thousands of years ago. We left them buried, at sites across your world, with markers that would only be revealed when your civilization reached a certain level of development. Your people visited Earth before? Many times. We are caretakers of a sort. We watch over developing worlds, intervening only when necessary. Tom's mind raced. Like now? When the Dominion invaded? We came as soon as we detected their presence in this system. Unfortunately, we were delayed. Something like regret crossed Alan's face. As they made their way out of the chamber, Tom saw the destruction the Guardian's arrival had caused. Not a single shot had been fired at the building itself, only precision strikes against Dominion defenses. They walked through corridors where Dominion technology had been disabled, but human structures remained intact. Outside, Tom led Alan toward the library where he hoped the others would be waiting. As they walked, he saw Guardian vessels hovering above the city, emitting beams of blue light that seemed to be neutralizing Dominion technology. The Dominion said humans were weak, Tom said as they walked. That's why they conquered us so easily. Alan gave him a strange look. The Dominion did not conquer you because you were weak. They conquered you because they feared what you might become. What do you mean? The Dominion builds its empire by conquering worlds with resources or strategic positions, but Earth was different. They came here because their long-range scanners detected energy signatures from our artifacts. When they arrived, they discovered something that frightened them even more. What? Your potential. Human adaptability is unique among the thousands of species we have encountered. Your ability to learn, to change, to overcome obstacles, it is remarkable. The Dominion feared what humans might become if they discovered the tools we left for you. Tom stopped walking, struggling to process this information. You're saying they attacked us not because we were weak, but because they were afraid of us. Precisely. The artifacts were accelerating your development. The Dominion's attack was not just conquest, it was preventative. As they approached the library, Tom saw Lisa and Jack watching from a window. Their eyes widened at the sight of Tom walking alongside a guardian. My friends are inside, Tom said. They'll have questions. As do I, Alan replied. Together, perhaps we can find answers. Tom nodded, a strange mix of hope and apprehension filling him. Whatever happened next would change humanity's understanding of its place in the universe forever. The truth, it seemed, was more complex than anyone had imagined. The old library basement had never been so crowded. Tom sat at a table with Alan and 3 other guardians, while Lisa, Jack, and the rest of the Whisper Network gathered around them. The air was thick with tension and hope. Let me understand this correctly, Jack said, leaning forward. These artifacts were left by your people thousands of years ago to help humanity develop? Alan nodded. His glowing skin cast soft light across the room. We seed promising worlds with tools and knowledge hidden until the civilization reaches a certain development stage. Earth was one such world. But we never found them, Lisa pointed out. You were close, Alan replied. Very close. The artifacts were beginning to react to human proximity. That's what alerted the Dominion to their presence. They arrived, found the artifacts, and realized what they were. Tom ran his hand through his hair, still processing everything he had learned. And they attacked us not because we were easy targets, but because they were afraid of what we might become if we found these tools. Correct. The Dominion builds its empire through conquest, but they especially target worlds where they detect our artifacts. They have been trying to unlock their secrets for centuries. As they spoke, reports came in from other resistance cells across the city. The Dominion forces were in full retreat, rushing to their ships as Guardian vessels secured the planet. But one massive Dominion command ship remained in orbit, refusing to flee. Their supreme commander is on that vessel, Alan explained, pointing to an image one of his fellow Guardians projected onto the wall. They will not leave without attempting to take some of the artifacts. Mike, who had been quiet until now, asked the question on everyone's mind. What happens now? To Earth? To humans? Alan exchanged glances with the other Guardians before answering. That depends partly on you. The damage done by the Dominion can be repaired. We can help restore your world, but its future must be determined by humanity. Sudden alarm sounded from a device on Alan's wrist. The Dominion command ship is moving. They're positioning weapons. On the projected image, they watched as the massive Dominion vessel turned toward Earth. Even from orbit, its weapons could devastate entire cities. They would destroy what they cannot have, one of the other Guardians said grimly. Can your ship stop them? Tom asked. Yes, but not instantly, Alan replied. They could fire at least once before we neutralize them. Jack jumped to his feet. We need to warn everyone to take shelter. There isn't time, Alan said, but there might be another way. He turned to Tom. You understand their systems better than most humans. You've worked in their control center for months. Tom nodded slowly, beginning to see where this was going. The regional hub is connected to their command ship. There's a communication array on the roof. If we could access it, we might be able to disrupt their targeting systems, Alan explained. Not permanently, but long enough for our vessels to move into position. I can get us there, Tom said without hesitation. Through the maintenance passages. Lisa grabbed his arm. It's too dangerous. The Dominion will have soldiers guarding it. Some, yes, Alan agreed. But most have retreated to their ships, and we will not be defenseless. He touched a device on his belt, and a soft blue glow surrounded him briefly. Tom stood up. We need to move fast. Minutes later, Tom led a small team through the city streets. With him were Alan, 2 other Guardians, and Jack, who insisted on coming due to his knowledge of communication systems. Above them, Guardian vessels engaged the remaining Dominion ships in orbit, flashes of light illuminating the night sky. Using the back routes he had memorized during months of careful observation, Tom guided them to the regional hub. As expected, a small group of Dominion soldiers guarded the entrance. They looked desperate, Jack whispered as they observed from cover. Cornered animals are dangerous. Alan made a subtle gesture, and one of the other Guardians moved forward. Before Tom could stop him, the Guardian stepped into the open. The Dominion soldiers fired immediately, energy weapons blazing, but the beams passed through the Guardian harmlessly. It was a hologram. As the soldiers focused on the decoy, Alan touched Tom's shoulder. Now, around the side entrance. They rushed across the open space to a service door Tom had used many times. Inside, the corridors were eerily empty. Most systems were still functioning, running on automatic protocols. This way, Tom said, leading them toward the central lift. The communication array is on the roof. They encountered resistance on the 3rd floor. 4 Dominion soldiers who opened fire as soon as they saw the intruders. Alan raised his hand, and a shield of blue energy absorbed the blasts. The other Guardian responded with a weapon that emitted pulses of light, disabling the soldiers instantly. Non-lethal, Alan explained, seeing Tom's expression. Unlike the Dominion, we prefer not to kill unless absolutely necessary. They continued upward. When they finally reached the roof access, Tom punched in the maintenance code he had memorized months ago. The door slid open. The roof was dominated by a massive dish-shaped array pointing skyward. 2 Dominion technicians worked frantically at a control station. This time there was no chance for subtlety. The technicians saw them immediately and reached for weapons. The Guardian's light weapon flashed twice, and the technicians collapsed. Jack rushed to the control panel. I can work with this, he said, studying the alien technology. It's similar to systems I've cleaned, but I'll need help understanding some of these components. Alan joined him. I can guide you. Tom and the other Guardian kept watch as Jack and Alan worked. Above them, the battle in orbit intensified. The massive Dominion command ship was moving into firing position. They're almost ready to fire, Tom warned, watching the ship's position change on a monitor. Almost there, Jack muttered, his fingers flying over the alien controls. Alan, what does this symbol mean? Power routing. Redirect it to the secondary node. Jack did as instructed. The entire array hummed, then shifted position slightly. Got it, Jack exclaimed. Sending the disruption signal now. The array emitted a pulse of energy that was invisible to the naked eye, but registered on the monitors as a wave spreading upward. It struck the Dominion command ship just as its main weapon was powering up. On the monitor, they watched as the Dominion ship's lights flickered. Its weapon ports closed suddenly, then opened again, but it was too late. 3 Guardian vessels had moved into position surrounding it with a web of blue energy. They're trapped, Alan said. Their weapons are neutralized. A cheer went up from Tom and Jack. The immediate danger was over. As they made their way back, down from the roof, Tom asked the question that had been bothering him. You said the Dominion feared human potential, but we were defeated so easily. What potential could they possibly fear? Alan stopped walking and turned to face him. Look at what you did, Tom. In just 6 months of occupation, you learned their systems, mapped their facility, formed a resistance network, and just now, you helped disable their command ship. A smile crossed his face, the most human expression Tom had seen from him. The Dominion feared your adaptability, your creativity, your determination. They feared that given time and the right tools, humans would surpass them. Is that true? Tom asked. Would we? It is already happening, Alan replied. The artifacts we left were meant to guide you, but even without them, humanity was finding its own path. Your civilization is young, but your potential is remarkable. They emerged from the building to find the sky changing. The Dominion ships were vanishing one by one, jumping away to whatever distant part of the galaxy they called home. Only, Guardian vessels remained glowing softly against the dawn sky. In the days that followed, the full truth emerged. The Guardians helped restore Earth's infrastructure and shared limited technology to help with rebuilding. They explained that they would not simply give humanity all their advanced technology. That would stunt Earth's natural development. But they would remain as allies and guides. The artifacts were returned to their original hiding places, to be discovered when humanity was truly ready for them. And perhaps most importantly, Earth was now known to other civilizations across the galaxy, not as an easy conquest, but as a protected world with untapped potential. Tom stood on the rooftop of his house one evening, watching the sun set just as he had on the day the Dominion arrived. But this time, the ships in the sky were Guardian vessels, preparing to leave now that their work was done. Lisa joined him, looking up at the stars that were beginning to appear. "Do you think they'll come back?" she asked. "The Dominion?" Tom shook his head. "I don't think so, not just because of the Guardians, but because they now know the truth about us." "What truth?" "That our weakness was never really weakness," Tom said. "Our adaptability, our creativity, our determination to survive. These things the Dominion saw as primitive are actually our greatest strengths." As the Guardian vessels ascended, disappearing one by one into the darkening sky, Tom thought about the future. Earth would rebuild. Humanity would continue to develop, to learn, to grow. And someday, perhaps, they would join the Guardians among the stars. The war had proven humanity helpless, or so it seemed. But the arrival of the ship called Ready had revealed a deeper truth. In the vastness of the galaxy, there were many kinds of strength, and humanity's was just beginning to emerge. Tom smiled as the last Guardian ship vanished from view. The stars seemed brighter